Life throws challenges at us every day, some big, some small. But have you ever noticed how differently people handle these challenges? Some react instantly with anger, fear, or frustration, while others pause, think, and respond calmly and effectively. The difference lies in how they train their minds. Today I want to talk about the power of training your mind to respond rather than react, a skill that can transform your personal and professional life. Reacting is an immediate and instinctive action driven by emotions, often without conscious thought. It happens in the heat of the moment, triggered by external stimuli or internal emotional responses. When we react, we allow our emotions such as anger, frustration, fear, or excitement to take control, leading to impulsive decisions that we may later regret. Reactions are often automatic and shaped by past experiences, ingrained habits, and conditioned responses. For example, if someone criticizes us, our immediate reaction might be to defend ourselves, argue, or retaliate with hurtful words. If we receive unexpected bad news, we might panic, lash out, or shut down emotionally. These instant responses, while natural, are not always the most effective way to handle situations. They can escalate conflicts, damage relationships, and create unnecessary stress. Responding, on the other hand, is a more deliberate and conscious process. It requires a moment of pause, self-awareness, and thoughtful consideration before taking action. When we respond instead of reacting, we engage the rational part of our brain, allowing us to assess the situation objectively, regulate our emotions, and choose the most appropriate course of action. A well-thought-out response helps us communicate more effectively, maintain composure, and make wiser decisions. For instance, if someone says something that upsets us, instead of snapping back immediately, we can take a deep breath, analyze the situation, and decide how best to express our thoughts calmly and constructively. If faced with a stressful problem, rather than panicking, we can step back, evaluate our options, and take measured steps to address the issue. This shift from reacting to responding leads to more positive outcomes in both personal and professional life. Developing the ability to respond rather than react takes practice and mindfulness. It requires us to be aware of our emotions, recognize our triggers, and create a mental space between a stimulus and our action. The more we train ourselves to respond thoughtfully, the more control we gain over our emotions and behavior, ultimately leading to greater emotional intelligence, inner peace, and stronger relationships. Reacting is an automatic, unconscious process that occurs when we face a stimulus or situation that triggers an emotional response. It is often driven by instinct, past conditioning, and immediate feelings rather than careful thought or analysis. When we react, we allow external circumstances to dictate our actions, which can lead to impulsive decisions, heightened emotions, and unintended consequences. This is because reactions come from the primitive part of the brain, the amygdala, which is responsible for survival instincts such as fight, flight, or freeze. While this response is useful in situations that require immediate action, it is not always the best approach in everyday interactions and decision-making. Reactions tend to be quick and emotionally charged, influenced by deep-seated habits, past experiences, and unresolved emotions. When we react without thinking, we may say or do things we later regret. For example, if someone criticizes us, we might instantly defend ourselves, raise our voice, or respond with harsh words. If a difficult situation arises at work, we might panic, blame others, or make rash decisions without considering all aspects of the problem. These reactions, though natural, often escalate conflicts, create misunderstandings, and cause unnecessary stress. Responding, however, involves a conscious choice. It requires us to take a step back, observe our emotions, and think before we act. Instead of allowing emotions to take full control, we engage the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thinking, decision-making, and emotional regulation. When we respond rather than react, we give ourselves time to process the situation, assess our feelings, and choose a course of action that aligns with our values, goals, and long-term well-being. This approach enables us to communicate more effectively, handle conflicts with maturity, and maintain inner balance even in challenging situations. For instance, if someone speaks to us harshly, our first instinct may be to snap back in defense. However, if we train ourselves to pause and assess the situation, we may realize that their words are coming from a place of frustration or misunderstanding. Instead of reacting with anger, we can respond with curiosity, empathy, or assertiveness, leading to a more productive and respectful conversation. Similarly, when faced with an unexpected challenge, rather than succumbing to stress or fear, we can take a deep breath, analyze the situation objectively, and respond with a well-thought-out plan of action. The ability to respond rather than react is a skill that requires practice, self-awareness, and mindfulness. It involves recognizing our emotional triggers, understanding how past experiences shape our behavior, and developing the patience to pause before making decisions. Over time, this shift leads to greater emotional resilience, improved relationships, and a sense of control over our actions. When we move from reacting impulsively to responding thoughtfully, we create a life that is guided by wisdom rather than one dictated by fleeting emotions or external circumstances. Emotional intelligence plays a crucial role in shifting from reacting impulsively to responding thoughtfully. It is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions while also being aware of and considerate toward the emotions of others. When we develop emotional intelligence, we gain control over our reactions and make conscious choices about how to respond to situations rather than allowing emotions to take over and dictate our behavior. Without emotional intelligence, we are more likely to act based on impulse, misinterpret situations, and allow negative emotions to escalate conflicts or cloud our judgment. One of the core aspects of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. It is the ability to recognize our own emotions as they arise, understand their impact on our thoughts and actions, and identify the triggers that cause strong emotional responses. When we lack self-awareness, we may find ourselves reacting automatically to situations without realizing why we feel a certain way. This can lead to emotional outbursts, misunderstandings, and regrettable decisions. However, when we become more self-aware, we develop the ability to pause and assess our emotions before acting. We can recognize when we are feeling angry, frustrated, or stressed, and take a moment to regulate our emotions before responding in a way that aligns with our values and intentions. Another essential component of emotional intelligence is self-regulation, which is the ability to control our impulses, manage stress effectively, and stay composed even in challenging situations. People who struggle with self-regulation tend to lash out when they are upset, act on their emotions without thinking, or allow minor inconveniences to ruin their mood. On the other hand, individuals who have developed strong self-regulation skills can acknowledge their emotions without letting them dictate their actions. They take the time to assess the situation, consider alternative perspectives, and choose a response that is constructive rather than destructive. By practicing self-regulation, we can prevent unnecessary conflicts, maintain positive relationships, and approach problems with a calm and rational mindset. Empathy, another key element of emotional intelligence, allows us to understand and relate to the emotions of others. When we react impulsively, we often focus only on our own feelings without considering how our words or actions might affect those around us. However, when we cultivate empathy, we become more attuned to the emotions of others and develop a deeper understanding of their perspectives. This helps us respond in ways that foster connection, build trust, and strengthen relationships rather than create tension or division. By putting ourselves in someone else's shoes, we can avoid making hasty judgments, communicate with kindness, and resolve conflicts in a way that is beneficial for everyone involved. Practicing emotional intelligence also involves developing the ability to manage difficult conversations and conflicts with grace. When emotions run high, it is easy to become defensive, argumentative, or dismissive. However, individuals with high emotional intelligence approach conflicts with a level-headed attitude, seeking to understand rather than to prove a point or win an argument. They remain calm, listen actively, and express their thoughts and concerns in a clear yet respectful manner. Instead of reacting aggressively or shutting down completely, they find ways to address issues constructively and work toward a resolution that benefits both parties. Training ourselves to strengthen our emotional intelligence takes time and effort, but it has profound effects on the way we navigate relationships, handle challenges, and make decisions. It allows us to step back from immediate emotional reactions and instead approach situations with wisdom and composure. By improving our self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, and conflict resolution skills, we gain greater control over our emotions and actions, ultimately leading to more meaningful interactions, better decision-making, and a greater sense of inner stability. The ability to pause before responding is one of the most powerful tools in developing self-control and emotional resilience. When faced with a challenging situation, an unexpected event, or a triggering remark, the immediate urge to react can be overwhelming. This instinctive reaction is often driven by emotion rather than logic, and in many cases it leads to regret, misunderstandings, or unnecessary conflict. The pause serves as a critical gap between stimulus and response, allowing the mind to process information, regulate emotions, and choose the most appropriate course of action. Without this pause, emotions can take over, causing us to say or do things that may escalate tensions or create negative consequences. Pausing allows the brain to transition from an impulsive, emotional response to a more thoughtful and rational one. When something happens that triggers frustration, anger, or fear, the brain's amygdala, responsible for emotional reactions, is activated almost instantly. This activation can lead to defensive, aggressive, or impulsive behaviors. However, taking even a brief moment to pause allows the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reasoning and decision-making, to engage. This small delay shifts control from emotional impulses to logical thinking, giving us the ability to assess the situation from a more objective and balanced perspective. The longer the pause, the more time the brain has to regulate emotions and consider alternative responses. Pausing also provides an opportunity to evaluate whether a reaction is necessary at all. Not every situation requires an immediate response, and in some cases, silence or deliberate inaction can be the most powerful approach. When emotions run high, words and actions can be misinterpreted, and a quick response may only add fuel to the fire. By taking a moment to pause, there is time to assess whether responding at that moment is beneficial or if it would be more effective to wait, reflect, and respond later when emotions have settled. This is particularly useful in personal relationships, professional settings, and conflict resolution, where a well-considered response can prevent unnecessary arguments and lead to better outcomes. The power of the pause is not only about controlling reactions, but also about gaining clarity. When emotions are intense, they can cloud judgment, making it difficult to see the situation clearly. A pause creates a space for reflection, allowing us to ask important questions before responding. What is really happening here? Is my emotional reaction based on the present situation? Or is it influenced by past experiences or biases? What outcome do I want to achieve with my response? How will my words or actions impact the people involved? These moments of self-reflection help in choosing responses that align with long-term goals rather than temporary emotions. Pausing also enhances active listening and effective communication. Often people react not to what is actually being said, but to their interpretation of it, which may be influenced by personal emotions, past experiences, or preconceived notions. By pausing before responding, there is time to truly absorb what the other person is saying, process their words with an open mind, and respond in a way that encourages understanding rather than conflict. This is particularly valuable in difficult conversations where emotions can run high, such as disagreements with colleagues, discussions with family members, or negotiations in high-pressure situations. Developing the habit of pausing takes practice, especially in moments of stress, frustration, or emotional intensity. The natural tendency is to react instantly, but through conscious effort, the brain can be trained to create space between stimulus and response. Techniques such as taking a few deep breaths, counting to 3, or mentally repeating a calming phrase can help in creating that necessary pause. Over time, this practice becomes second nature, allowing responses to be guided by clarity, wisdom, and self-control rather than fleeting emotions. Mindfulness and self-reflection are essential in developing the ability to respond rather than react. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment, aware of thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations without judgment. It allows the mind to observe experiences objectively rather than being swept away by emotions or conditioned reactions. When a situation triggers frustration, anger, or stress, mindfulness creates the awareness needed to recognize these emotions as they arise, instead of being controlled by them. Without mindfulness, the mind operates on autopilot, reacting impulsively based on ingrained habits, past experiences, or fleeting emotions. By cultivating mindfulness, there is an opportunity to pause, assess the situation with clarity, and choose a response that is thoughtful and intentional. Self-reflection complements mindfulness by allowing a deeper understanding of why certain situations provoke strong emotional reactions. Many reactions are rooted in past experiences, unresolved emotions, or subconscious beliefs that influence behavior without conscious awareness. When someone's words or actions trigger anger or defensiveness, self-reflection helps identify whether the response is genuinely based on the present situation or if it is influenced by past wounds or personal insecurities. By regularly examining thoughts and emotions, patterns can be recognized, helping to break free from automatic reactions and replace them with deliberate, well-considered responses. Mindfulness enhances emotional regulation by creating a mental space between stimulus and reaction. Instead of immediately responding to external events, mindfulness trains the mind to observe emotions as they arise, acknowledge them without judgment, and allow them to pass without dictating behavior. This process is particularly useful in high-stress situations where emotions can easily take over, leading to reactive decisions. By remaining present, it becomes easier to maintain composure, approach challenges with a balanced mindset, and communicate effectively even in emotionally charged conversations. The ability to remain centered in the present moment reduces impulsive reactions and fosters a sense of control over thoughts, emotions, and actions. Mindfulness also strengthens awareness of bodily sensations, which are often early indicators of emotional reactions. When experiencing frustration, stress, or anxiety, the body provides subtle signals such as increased heart rate, shallow breathing, or muscle tension. By tuning into these physical cues, it becomes possible to recognize emotional responses before they escalate into reactive behavior. Techniques such as deep breathing, grounding exercises, or body scans help bring attention back to the present, allowing emotions to settle before choosing how to respond. Over time, this practice builds resilience, enabling better management of stress and emotional triggers. Self-reflection encourages intentional growth by providing insight into personal strengths and areas for improvement. Through practices like journaling, meditation, or quiet contemplation, it becomes possible to analyze past interactions, recognize moments where reactions could have been handled differently, and develop strategies for responding more effectively in the future. This process of learning from experience helps to refine emotional intelligence, improve communication, and strengthen relationships by fostering understanding and patience. Regular self-reflection also promotes personal accountability, shifting focus from blaming external circumstances to taking responsibility for how emotions and behaviors are managed. Developing mindfulness and self-reflection requires consistent effort and practice, but even small daily habits can create profound changes. Setting aside time for mindfulness exercises such as focused breathing or meditation helps to train the brain to stay present rather than becoming overwhelmed by emotions. Engaging in self-reflective activities such as reviewing daily interactions and considering alternative responses, reinforces conscious decision-making. Over time, these practices rewire the brain, making thoughtful responses more natural and reducing the tendency to react impulsively. By strengthening awareness of thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, mindfulness and self-reflection empower individuals to navigate life's challenges with clarity, patience, and wisdom. Reframing perspective is a powerful tool that transforms the way situations are interpreted and responded to. Often, reactions are based not on objective reality, but on personal perceptions shaped by emotions, past experiences, and subconscious biases. When faced with a challenging situation, the mind instinctively assigns meaning to it, determining whether it is good or bad, fair or unfair, positive or negative. However, these interpretations are not absolute truths, but rather mental constructs influenced by internal narratives. By learning to shift perspective, emotions can be managed more effectively, and responses can be chosen with greater wisdom and control. The way a situation is perceived directly influences emotions and behavior. If a difficult interaction is seen as a personal attack, the natural reaction might be defensiveness, anger, or frustration. However, if the same situation is reframed as an opportunity to understand another person's point of view or practice patience, the emotional response shifts, leading to a more thoughtful and composed reaction. This ability to reframe does not mean ignoring reality or suppressing emotions, but rather choosing to interpret situations in ways that promote constructive responses rather than reactive ones. Reframing involves questioning initial interpretations and considering alternative explanations. When someone speaks harshly, the immediate assumption might be that they are being rude or disrespectful. However, stepping back and asking whether there could be another explanation changes the perspective. Perhaps they are having a bad day, dealing with personal stress, or struggling with something internally. Shifting from a viewpoint of blame or resentment to one of curiosity and understanding allows for a more compassionate and measured response. Instead of reacting emotionally, a response can be chosen based on empathy, patience, or thoughtful communication. The practice of reframing also applies to personal challenges and setbacks. When something does not go as planned, the automatic reaction may be frustration, disappointment, or self-criticism. However, by reframing the situation, it becomes an opportunity for learning and growth rather than failure. A mistake can be seen as a valuable lesson, a rejection as redirection, and a difficulty as a chance to build resilience. This shift in perspective does not change external circumstances, but alters internal reactions, leading to greater emotional balance and a more proactive approach to problem solving. Reframing perspective helps break free from negative thought patterns that reinforce stress, anxiety, or frustration. The brain is naturally wired to focus on threats and negative experiences, often magnifying problems and triggering emotional reactions. By consciously reframing situations, the mind can be trained to adopt a more balanced and constructive outlook. This is particularly useful in high-pressure situations where shifting perspective can prevent impulsive reactions and promote rational decision-making. Instead of viewing obstacles as insurmountable, they can be reframed as temporary challenges with potential solutions. Instead of seeing difficult conversations as confrontations, they can be reframed as opportunities to strengthen understanding and resolve differences. Developing the habit of reframing requires awareness and intentional practice. When emotions are triggered, pausing to assess whether the initial interpretation is the only possible perspective creates space for alternative viewpoints. Asking questions such as, is there another way to look at this? Or what can I learn from this? Helps in shifting focus from reaction to response. Over time, this practice rewires thinking patterns, reducing emotional reactivity and enhancing the ability to approach life's situations with clarity, flexibility, and emotional intelligence. Practicing patience and self-control is essential for developing the ability to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. In moments of stress, frustration, or conflict, the urge to react immediately can be overwhelming. Emotions such as anger, disappointment, or anxiety may surge, pushing for an instant response. However, without patience and self-control, these reactions can lead to regrettable words, strained relationships, and unnecessary tension. Learning to cultivate patience creates the space needed to process emotions, consider different perspectives, and make choices that align with long-term well-being rather than short-term impulses. Patience allows emotions to settle before action is taken. When confronted with a difficult situation, the initial emotional response is often the strongest, but it is not always the wisest. Giving emotions time to cool down prevents the escalation of conflicts and provides an opportunity to approach the situation with a clearer mind. Instead of reacting immediately to criticism, bad news, or an irritating remark, taking a deep breath and allowing a moment of stillness can prevent knee-jerk responses that may worsen the situation. The ability to delay action, even by a few seconds or minutes, makes a significant difference in the outcome of interactions and decisions. Self-control is the ability to regulate emotions, thoughts, and behaviors in alignment with long-term goals and values. When emotions are not managed effectively, they can cloud judgment and lead to impulsive actions. Self-control prevents reactive outbursts by creating awareness of emotional triggers and developing strategies to handle them in a composed manner. Recognizing when emotions are intensifying and consciously choosing to slow down rather than act immediately strengthens the ability to navigate challenges with wisdom. This skill is particularly important in high-pressure situations where maintaining composure leads to better decision-making and more effective communication. Practicing patience also enhances resilience by shifting focus from immediate gratification to long-term growth. Many frustrations arise from wanting immediate results or expecting situations to unfold a certain way. However, learning to accept that some things take time reduces stress and frustration. Whether it is waiting for progress in personal development, dealing with setbacks at work, or resolving conflicts in relationships, patience allows for a more balanced and steady approach. Instead of reacting negatively to delays or disappointments, patience fosters perseverance, problem solving, and adaptability. Patience and self-control also contribute to healthier relationships. In moments of disagreement, responding impulsively can lead to misunderstandings, hurtful words, and damaged connections. By exercising patience, there is an opportunity to listen actively, understand the other person's perspective, and respond in a way that fosters mutual respect and resolution. Self-control prevents emotional outbursts and allows for communication that is calm, clear, and constructive. Over time, these qualities build trust, strengthen bonds, and create a more harmonious dynamic in both personal and professional relationships. Developing patience and self-control requires consistent effort and mindfulness. Practicing deep breathing, counting to 10, or taking a brief walk before responding to a stressful situation helps in gaining control over emotional impulses. Engaging in activities such as meditation, journaling, or self-reflection builds the capacity to remain calm under pressure. Over time, these small but intentional practices train the mind to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. By strengthening patience and self-control, the ability to navigate life's challenges with grace, wisdom, and emotional stability becomes second nature. Training the mind to respond rather than react is a lifelong practice that requires self-awareness, patience, and intentional effort. By developing emotional intelligence, practicing mindfulness, pausing before reacting, reframing perspectives, and cultivating self-control, it becomes possible to navigate challenges with clarity and composure. Every situation presents a choice whether to react impulsively or to respond thoughtfully. The more this skill is developed, the more empowered and in control life feels. With time and practice, responding with wisdom rather than reacting with emotion becomes second nature, leading to greater peace, stronger relationships, and a more fulfilling life.